Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this live workshop together with me, Lovisa, and FIMO by STAEDTLER. Tonight I'll be guiding you for making some leopard terrazzo earrings. I'm actually wearing my own creations right now, and we'll also make some different styles and shapes. I just want to tell you that I keep my eyes on the YouTube streams, so feel free to ask any questions. And yeah, hello everyone. I'll try to answer the questions as we go by. But what we'll be doing tonight is working with polymer clay. This is clay made by FIMO, and this is the FIMO Soft. FIMO do also make some other kind of clays. I have, for example, some FIMO Professional and also some FIMO Effect. But tonight we'll be using the FIMO Soft. And as you might have read on the instructions for this evening, you'll need 3 colors. We'll be working with black, white, and this caramel color. Yeah, I think if you don't have any questions this far, a bit more information about myself. My name is Lovisa, as I already told you, and I have my own small business called Lovanya. You can check it out on Instagram, where you find all my previous creations. I've been working with polymer clay for about 2 years now, a bit longer. I started back in 2019. And yeah, this has been kind of my side hustle since I'm studying to become a teacher. So one day I'll be a teacher, but yeah, I love creating jewelry, and polymer clay has been my favorite media for 2 years now. So yeah, I think we should get started. I will just quickly switch my camera so you can see what I'm doing with my hands. So can you hear me? Can you see me? Yay! I'm back. Something happened, I don't know what, but now we're back. Okay, so let me first show you all the stuff you'll need. So when working with polymer clay, it's super important that you have a flat surface. Right now I'm using a tile, and this is actually one you can attach to the wall in bathrooms and kitchens, but I only have this one. And this is a flat surface. It's perfect for working with polymer clay. If you don't have one of these, I recommend you use some kind of glass, maybe some hard plastic, or even a baking paper, baking sheet, any kind of material, as long as it isn't wood or some textured surface, because the clay will get stuck to that. I get a questions if this workshop is recorded, and yes, it will be recorded and it will be published on the YouTube channel later on. So no worries if you miss something. You can always go back and check what I've told you. So yeah, this is for the surface, and then of course you'll need some polymer clay. And as I already told you, you'll need 3 different colors. I have white, and I have caramel, and I have black. And the easiest way to know what colors you'll use, just check on the back. Here you can see the names of the clay. So this is called caramel, for example. Another great tool is a rolling pin. And this is actually by FIMO. It's a perfect rolling pin. If you don't have one of these, you can also use a glass bottle or anything that's just round and easy to roll out your clay with. I'll also be using some clay cutters, and I have some different ones here. Clay cutters are sold almost everywhere today. It's super easy to get these clay cutters, but if you don't have these ones, you can use the cap of a glue stick or the cap of a bottle or anything that's round, and even an X-Acto knife. You can cut out shapes from paper and put it on the clay and cut it out using an X-Acto knife. Why did I choose soft as a type of clay? Yeah, well, this is the easiest one to begin with. It's super easy to work with because it's soft, as the name tells. The FIMO Professional is a bit more, it's like harder. And yeah, to begin with, I always recommend the soft. There's also FIMO Kids, FIMO Air Drying Clay, and yeah, FIMO Effect. The Effect is also a bit harder than the soft ones. So yeah, that's why we're using soft today. Yes, thank you, Mo. I was thinking if I was going to tell the tip that to use glass out of a frame, but yeah, I recommend getting one of these because the sides are not that sharp. Okay, let's move on. Cutters, yeah, you can use anything else than cutters. We are also going to use some findings, as you can see here. I have some earring hooks, but you can also use some, what are these called? Some posts, earring posts in different kinds. And we're also going to use some jump rings. As you can see here, I have a whole collection of jump rings. I'm using mostly the 7mm, 8mm, 10mm, and also some smaller ones are good to have in. I have both gold and silver, but they come in all different kind of colors and shapes. Also, you can find oval ones or rectangular or triangular jump rings, but we're using the round ones, circular ones. And we're also going to use some gold metal leaf for this project. And also I have a pack of cards, and I'll show you what I'll use these for later on. I also have some varnish. I have semi-gloss and I have gloss varnish. So I'll use those. The most important tool is the rolling pin and this tissue blade. Tissue blades are super, super sharp. So I'm using these kind of paddings because this other end could be like going into your fingers as well, as the clay is pretty hard to cut. So these are perfect for cutting clay. And then I also have some sanding paper in different grids, 240, and I have 360. These come in packs, and it's you can get them almost anywhere. And then I also have some needles for making holes, and an oven thermometer because it's crucial to have the right temperature when hardening the clay. But I'll talk a bit more about this later on. Pliers are great to have in different. I have some chain nose pliers and flat pliers. And what else? Yes, I have a damp cloth. And before starting, I'm always making sure that my hands are clean, that my surface is clean, and my tools. Since I use these tools a lot, I like to have some clean tools before I start. So I'm wiping off my tile and also my surface. And this is just to prevent dust from sticking into the clay, because that could be super annoying when you're making jewelry and you have a lot of dust getting stuck in your clay. Since the clay is pretty sticky, like so. So let's get started creating the leopard terrazzo slab. I have 3 colors here, but as you might see on this example, there are actually 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's also 3 colors, but there's no white. It's a beige color, and then this caramel, and then it's black. So that means we have to mix some color, and I'll guide you step by step through that as well. When opening the packages, the FIMO packages, it's super great to just open it like this, because then you can re-seal the package if you don't use all the clay at once. So I'm starting with the white, since we'll use as you can see, this is perfect because it's actually divided into equal parts when you open a new package. So I'll use 4 pieces of these, and now I'll create the beige background color, or like the slab sheet to start working on. And you can also use this sticker that you find on the back of these packages to close the package so dust doesn't get stuck inside your clay package. But I like to just wrap the plastic around and put it away. So I use 4 pieces of white, and then we'll use the caramel. Just opening this as well. And to make a beige color, I'll use only 1/3 of one of these parts. So I'm just eyeballing it and cutting out a small piece of caramel. Then again, putting away so I prevent dust and dirt from getting into the clay. And then I push these 2 together. This evening I'm not using a clay machine. Usually I have a clay machine. It's like a pasta machine kind of machine, but now I'll do everything by hand. So when mixing colors, it's super important to try to prevent air from getting into the clay, because air creates bubbles, and you don't want to have a lot of bubbles in your clay. So now when I want to mix these 2 colors up, I like to go with a folding method, which means I fold the clay, and as you see, here is the edge, and then I start rolling from there. By doing this, I push out all the air in one direction, instead of putting or pushing a lot of air into the clay. So then again, folding it and rolling it from the edge that I just folded. Again, I fold it and I roll it from the edge I just folded. This takes a lot of work and a lot of strength in your hands. Therefore, I do recommend getting a clay machine because it makes this job so much easier. I've seen a lot of clay makers doing the twisting method, but I feel like I get a lot of air stuck in my clay if I do it like that. And also, now I'm creating the round color, or this beige color. So therefore, I'm using quite a lot because I want to have a decent sized slab to work on. And a slab is like the thing we are creating now. That was a new word for me when I started working with polymer clay. Yes, Monik, I see pasta machine. They will save you a lot of tears. Absolutely. This is quite, well, it takes a lot of work, and you have to have strength in your hands to just fold and roll and fold and roll. And with a pasta machine, you just kind of get the job done much quicker and easier. But I find this quite, yeah, it's quite fun to see how the colors are blending into each other when doing this as well. And of course, if you want a marbled effect when working with clay, this is a fun way to be creative, and as you can see, it creates beautiful patterns. For this project, I'm looking for a solid beige color. So I'm just continuing rolling out the clay. If I would notice that there are some bubbles in my clay when doing this, actually now I can't see almost. Okay, I see one bubble over there. So I'm going in with my X-Acto knife, and I'm just poking a hole on the bubble, and then I fold it outwards where I did cut. And that way I'm releasing the air out from the clay. If I would fold it inwards, as you can see, there is the bubble. And if I would fold it this way, I could still trap the air inside the clay. So I'm always folding it outwards. And as you can see, this lovely beige color starts to appear. But I'll still roll it a couple of times so the color would get super solid. I see some bubbles, so I just pop it with my X-Acto knife. And I'm continuing. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with this color. So now I'll put this aside and then I'll grab some caramel, because the next step is actually to start creating the slab. And one thing you have to remember when working with clay is to keep your tools and hands and surface pretty clean, because sometimes if you're putting a darker color on your surface or working with your tools, it might discolor somewhat. So now when I start working with or conditioning this caramel clay, I'll take 1 2/3 of this clay. You might see that this clay could leave some residues onto my surface and onto my rolling pin. So therefore, it's important to have clean tools and clean hands. And by doing that, you prevent to discolor your slab or discolor a lighter color. And when I'm conditioning this piece of clay, I'm using the same method as before. I'm just folding and rolling. And this way I prevent air from getting trapped into my clay. Thank you for the question. I use baby wipes sometime, but it's actually easier to just have a damp cloth like this. And you can just run it under the water and get the dust and everything away and reuse it. If you're using baby wipes, you have to buy new wipes, and yeah, I just like to use the damp cloth. But of course, it's important that you rinse it, because dust gets collected in damp cloth. So yeah, baby wipes is another alternative, absolutely. Okay, so I have another color conditioned and ready, so I put that one aside. And now I'll also condition my black. Thank you, Pink, for the question. I'll show you in a minute. Right now, it's not important to get any like specific thickness of the clay pieces. I'm just conditioning them, but I'll show you in a minute how I measure the thickness. Black clay it's a dark color, so this, as you can see now, it leaves some residue on my surface. So specifically after I've been working with this clay and going over to the lightest beige, it's important to clean my tools and my surface. And as you saw, I only took one piece of the black clay. And I'm using the same technique again. I'm folding it and rolling it. And when it gets to, it should feel like soft, you could stretch it somehow. And some clays, when they're getting a bit older, they could start like cracking, and it gets a bit like stiff. But well-conditioned clay always, it doesn't like, yeah, it doesn't break when you stretch it. It breaks at some point, but you should be able to stretch it pretty far. So that's when you know it's well conditioned. So I think I'm happy with that. Remember to clean my fingers also, because they can get somewhat discolored by darker colors, but this is completely normal. And again, I'm not forgetting to clean my rolling pin, and also my tissue blade can get leave some residue, so I'm also cleaning off that one. Okay. Now I'll bring out my slab sheet, the beige one, and now I'll actually use my pile of playing cards. And this is a tip I first learned when I started doing polymer clay, to use playing cards as a depth guide. So I've already looked into these, and I want 8 pieces. So that gets me to a depth of around, is it maybe 2 millimeters? 1.8 or 2 millimeters. And when making earrings, that's a perfect measurement. But make sure you have the same amount on both sides. You need 2 piles of playing cards. And now when I start working on this sheet that I'm going to place my pattern onto, it will get the same depth on all places, because I'm making sure that my ends of my rolling pin is on the cards. And then I just start to roll out my slab. And I might need to move around a bit. To get a smooth surface. If you find some air bubbles on your clay, it's fine to just bring your X-Acto knife and pop the bubble, not the bottle, the bubble. Pop the bubble and roll over it. And once you have a smooth surface of your clay, you can actually put away your pile of cards. So this is my slab, and now I'll start putting my pattern onto this one. And I want this Terrazzo kind of styled pattern. And as you can see, the edges are a bit like rough on the black and the brown pieces, the caramel pieces. So I'm starting with my black clay, and I'm rolling it out just a bit because I want the clay to be kind of thin. To create terrazzo, I'm using the simple method of just dragging pieces of the clay. And now you can see it gets stuck to my thumb, and then I just press it onto my slab. A simple tip is to, because you probably have some dust on your slab, but instead of trying to get rid of the dust, it like destroys your surface, and can leave some ugly marks. So instead, I'm just ripping off these pieces, and I'm actually putting them over where I can see the dust. And this way, I just hide away some ugly pieces. But pretty much, you have free hands with creating your pattern. You can place the blobs anywhere you like. So I'm just ripping off some pieces and pressing them onto my slab. A great tip is to keep your nails short, because having long nails can easily make marks and stuff on your clay. So I recommend keeping your nails short. It's helping a lot when creating with polymer clay. So the pieces I'm putting here, they are about 1 centimeter wide. But of course, you have completely free hands when creating this pattern. And that's why I love making terrazzo patterns, because it often turns out just great. A cookie without calories, absolutely. This looks like a chocolate chip cookie, doesn't it? So after I placed all my black blobs, or these kind of pattern, onto my slab, I'm actually done with my black color for now. So then I'm going over to this caramel color, and again, it's a bit thick, so I'll just roll it out a bit. But actually, it doesn't really matter how thick this clay is, because when you rip it, it will get thinner. So now I'm just ripping off some smaller pieces, and I'm adding them to the middle of the black ones. And again, I'm just placing them down with my thumb. And now you can see that the leopard style is starting to show. Thank you for the question, Monica. The reason why I do it this way is because I want the blobs to look like a leopard kind of pattern. Of course, you can put the caramel color anywhere you like. That way you create a different kind of style. Okay, so now I have all these kind of blobs placed on my slab. So now I'll go over to use my gold leaf. And actually I'll quickly just wipe off my hands because they might get a bit sticky from working with the clay. And as you know, gold leaf is like super thin metal. And by super thin, I mean super thin. This gets stuck anywhere. If you have sticky fingers or a sticky surface, it will get stuck. So I'm just carefully taking out a piece. And now I start doing the same thing. I'm just trying to get some small pieces. And then I'm adding those to the clay as well. And now I've chosen to put some gold details next to the previous blobs. Another way doing this is actually to hold up your whole piece of gold metal leaf, and I'm just putting it down to the clay and holding my finger and then rip. And that way you can get a smaller piece stuck onto your slab. But you can also continue ripping some pieces off. This gold leaf metal, it gets stuck to the clay, but it's super important to remember that any other media you want to attach to polymer clay, you'll have to secure it once it's baked. Not every media is safe to put in the oven, for example. So always check that with the manufacturer or the product details if it's safe to put them in the oven. Gold leaf metal is perfectly fine to put in the oven, but you'll have to seal it once your clay is baked, because then the clay becomes hardened and it's not sticky anymore. So if you aren't sealing your pieces after baking or hardening, they'll might come off from your slab or your pieces. And I'll show you in a minute what I mean with sealing. Okay, I think I'm quite satisfied with my slab, this part. And as you can see, the gold metal leaf, it just gets stuck on your thumb or fingers, but just easily try to put it back into the original container. Otherwise, you'll have it flying around everywhere. Okay, the next step is now to make sure that the clay we added on top of the beige will stay in place as well. It actually, when you put it in the oven, it will get pretty secure. But to make it even more secure, I'll actually run over with my rolling pin, but I'm not adding much pressure to it. I'm just rolling super easy over it. And now you can also choose whether you'd like the pattern to like stand up a bit from the beige slab, or if you'd like it to kind of melt into the background. But I'm not adding much pressure at all. I'm just kind of smoothing it out. You can also use a piece of paper and put it on and just kind of smoothing it out that way with your rolling pin. But I like to see what I do, so therefore I'm just doing it this way. If you want, you can also run it through your clay machine, but be aware that the pattern might get somewhat distorted if you run it through the machine. So just bear that in mind, because you don't want to destroy the pattern you now created. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with this one. You can check by leaning your head, and you can check that the pieces are somewhat even on your slab. The next part is actually to start deciding on what shapes you want. So I'm using my clay cutters in different shapes. And then you're just doing like you would with gingerbread cookies or anything else. You'll just cut your earring pieces out of the slab. So I'm just pushing down my cutter. If you're using a bottle cap, you'll do the same thing. And here you can choose what pattern you want on which piece. I really like this drop shape. I think it's beautiful for creating earrings or a pendant for a necklace. And then cutters can also look like this. They work exactly the same way. So as you see, I get quite a lot of pieces out of this tiny slab. But remember, if you're making earrings, you'll need 2 pieces of each shape. Okay, and now this is the fun part where I just drag this. It's I know in the polymer clay world it's called skeleton. So I'm dragging that away and it should easily come off. And this is now scrap clay. You can mix it up or you can make some nice marble out of it. Don't throw it away because it's still useful. Okay, so the next step is to transfer these onto a baking sheet, or I use this kind of pie. Yeah, what is called, I don't know. And I'm just using my tissue blade to transfer these pieces onto the baking sheet so I can put it in the oven. And make sure you have preheated your oven. And it's a great thing to have a thermometer that you can put in the oven. You'll harden the clay on 110 degrees Celsius. And when you harden clay, it's super, super important that you have the right temperature. Because if you have too high of a temperature, the pieces will get burnt. If your temperature is too low, the clay will get brittle or it won't harden. So make sure that your oven is the correct temperature. And the best way to do that is to get one of these thermometers. You should always bake your clay pieces for around 30 minutes. Not less or no longer. 30 minutes is like perfect. Then you'll get some perfectly hardened pieces. So I preheated my oven and now I want to bake my earring pieces. Before I harden them, I'd like to make a hole into the pieces too, because this way I can later on attach my jump rings. So after you saw that I used a kind of zigzag motion to get up the piece, and then I just use a needle and I'm poking a hole wherever I want it on my piece. I'm poking my needle straight down while I have my piece on my blade. This way I prevent the piece to get like wiggly or wobbly. it just stays the perfect shape when I use my tissue blade. So again, I'm using this kind of zigzag motion to pick my pieces up, and then I like to smoothen them down a bit because they might get a bit wobbly, and then again pushing my needle down and making a hole. You can make the pattern on the other side too, but of course the pattern you created on one side might get a bit distorted because you can't see what you're doing. And yeah, of course it's possible to do that if you like pattern on both sides. You can see, but I'm putting my pieces on my baking tray. And then I'm also pushing them down because you might distort the pieces a bit when doing this. So I'm actually going to speed this up a bit by just moving these over. And why I'm doing this zigzag motion is actually to prevent, because the slab might get stuck onto your tile. And if I would just put my blade under half of the piece, I can show you like this, and then drag my blade up, it could create some marks on the backside of your piece. So I really like doing the zigzag motion. The tissue blade is also great for cleaning off your surface. I'm just dragging it over and taking away excess clay. So now it's clean and ready for my next project. After you harden your clay pieces, they'll come out looking something like this. I'm doing a bit of magic. And as you can hear, they are quite hard now, but they are also quite flexible. You should be able to bend your clay pieces like this after they hardened correctly. As you can see, I can bend them without them breaking. If they break, you might need to look over your temperature. Is the oven too hot or too cold? But when you baked a polymer clay piece perfectly, you should just be able to bend them like this. Now I'll finish off these pieces and making them into an earring. As I told you, we have some other media stuck onto our clay, which now is the gold leaf, and I have to seal them. So I'm using this gloss varnish from FIMO, and it's super handy because it comes with a brush, and I'm just lightly brushing over a layer of varnish onto my finished hardened clay piece. You can do 2 layers, you can do 3 layers, depending on how glossy you want it to be. And of course, it gets more secure the more varnish you put onto your clay pieces. I'm letting them dry. These are already varnished, and as you can see, they have quite a beautiful gloss. So what I'll do now, because I feel like my edges are a bit rough, I'm actually using sanding paper. And I've also prepared a cup of water because this can get a bit dusty. I'm actually going to move those to the side so dust won't get trapped. So I'm actually just dipping my piece into water, and I'm using my sandpaper to just clean off the edges. And when I'm happy with that, you can also, if you want your backside to be smooth and perfect, you can also sand the back piece down. And when I'm happy, I'm going to quickly just finish off this piece as well. And here you can also choose, if you're looking on the side of the piece, if you want your design to, it has been pushed down by my clay cutter a bit on the side. And you can also use sanding paper to remove the pattern of your size if you want to. But if you want your pattern to go onto your side, it's completely fine. Okay, I'm happy with that. And I'm just drying them off. You can also use water to get off the sanding dust. So now it's time to actually assemble my earring. And for that, I'll use my jump rings and my hooks. So now I'll need my pliers. And I'm grabbing actually 2 jump rings. And they often come closed when you buy them, so you might have to open them. And then you'll add your clay piece onto your jump ring and just close your jump ring, making sure that the jump ring is looking like a ring and nothing else, because otherwise it will just fall off your hook. And I'm doing the same with the other. Open it a bit more. And again, I'm closing it. And you can kind of wiggle the ring a bit so you get the ends to meet perfectly. And now, because my earring hooks, the loop on the end is this way. And now if I like my earring to hang the right way, I might need to add another jump ring. So I'm using a smaller one. But here again, it's a matter of design, whether you like to use larger jump rings or smaller ones. But I'm using these smaller ones so that when the earring hangs in your, or dangles from your ear, you want it to point forward, like so. And there we go. Your earrings are now complete. The thing I like with polymer clay earrings, these are super, super lightweight. They're durable and they're also flexible, so they won't break. But that means you have to bake them properly. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can, of course, if you like to add some black details, you can just roll out some black clay and push out some black details or other pieces. Okay, I'll switch my camera like this. Okay, that was pretty much it for me. If you still have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me on this workshop. I hope you have learned something, and you might have gotten some tips and tricks, and yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed this. Feel free to ask some questions. Otherwise, I recommend you check out my Instagram. It's Lovanju, and there you get more inspiration and can see what I create from polymer clay. You should also follow FIMO STAEDTLER on Instagram because they have some super great tips and tricks, and you'll get some inspiration from there as well. Otherwise, if you don't have any more questions, I hope we'll be in touch on Instagram or maybe somewhere else in the future. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Bye.